Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and we are back as Spurs secure their seats in the next phase of the Europa League. We've nearly set up a smile about. We've got a bit of a smile. Look, if it was for the very, very first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X. We're on Instagram. We are on, of course, Blue Sky, and we're on Facebook too. I'm joined by three of our returning regular faces to Last Word on Spurs. And in the words of the wonderful Tyrant, who in his caption says the words, "Bless the Academy," it was those Academy lads that absolutely shine for Tottenham on a night where three of them stepped up to secure Tottenham's route to what we hope to be a long, long trip to come, where we hope it's going to end in Bilbao with a trophy in our hands. Look, like I say, Tottenham Hotspur ending that game against Elfsborg 3-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Match facts and stats that we bring you into this show. Tottenham 3, Elfsborg 0. 21 shots for Spurs to Elfsborg 4. 11 shots for Spurs on target, with Elfsborg resulting in 0. 60 touches in the Elfsborg box to Spurs' 7. 54 recoveries to 48. In terms of other stats in there, you've got 11 clearances to 51. Tackles Elfsborg, edging it 20-16. Those final third entries, look at that, 90 final third entries for Tottenham, 23 from Elfsborg. Tottenham dominating the possession, 81% to 19%. And XG-wise, 1.56 to 0.46. Look, I think it's fair to say the first half wasn't a classic, but we got the result. And at the end, the performance that we all wanted to see. On this show, I'm delighted to have back alongside me, Tyrant returns to the panel. Jason McGovern is back on. And so is actor TJ Ramini, on a night where the youth really did step up to secure Tottenham's path into that next phase of the Europa League. Jace, let me start with you on this last one on Spurs, because it was certainly a night for the youth. Look, it may only just be our fourth home win in 15 games. It may only just be our third win in 11 overall, but it was a magical night for our Academy Starlets, where 3 goals from the youth products, Scarlett, Moore and Ajayi, secure 3 points produced in Hotspur way as Spurs secure automatic qualification to the round of 16 of the Europa League. Jace, we got there in the end. Thoughts for you on that overall performance and result as Spurs secure their path in that next round of the Europa League?
Well, for 70 minutes, it was about as exciting as the Tamworth game, wasn't it? Let's be honest. There wasn't a lot happening. Sonny had his man on toast, but nothing ever came of it. And it just looked another frustrating night. I mean, when you look at that, 81% of the ball and an XG of just over 1.5. So, you know, we hardly carved them open time and time again. But, you know, the flip side of that was it was good to just have kind of a stroll. It didn't look much more than a training session, wasn't it? So there wasn't too much intensity and players exerting themselves. Fantastic to see Mikey just get himself out on the pitch. Then we have yet another injury. So just when you think we might be able to rotate one of, you know, give Mickey a bit of a rest, no, suddenly Mickey, you're playing 90 minutes on at Brentford. But then the Academy boys taking over at the end, and that's when it's really nice. And I actually sent John a message and said, I bet he's got a tear in his eye, particularly when Damola put one in the back of the net. And then you just knew Mikey, there was no way Mikey was going to pass in that last minute, wasn't he? He thought, there's 2 boys already done it, I'm doing it. So, and Mikey actually had a mixed night. First 10 minutes, he had a really good game, and then it kind of petered out for him. So just pleased for him to get that first goal as well. And main thing is we're into that top 8. It's a win. They were poor, let's be honest. But even then, we almost went 1-0 down at one stage, didn't we? Which might have been strange, or might have set a few cat among the pigeons. But no, I mean, the main thing is you got through a kind of a stress-free night, not too much exertion, and we move on, mate. It won't be in the glory days book, that's for sure.
No, it won't be. I mean, Patty, just bringing you in. I know it's been a difficult last few weeks on here, but I mean, I think, look, we all look up our face when you see the likes of Ajayi, Moore and Scarlett, I think there's a real feeling for those that have come away from that game and come back home that they've had a real good look at what hopefully there's a big future in store for a lot of these academy starlets. And, we mentioned that point that, it's great to see the academy starlets being given the opportunity to shine. And I think someone like Dane Scarlett, who's been around the club, as you just said off air there, since the age of around 6 or 7, it's just 3 fantastic goals from 3 very talented boys. And the most important thing of all is that Spurs do secure that top 8 spot and avoid the Europa League punishment round, which would have been a back-to-back playoff that we would have to face. How important is that, Pat? We avoid that, and we have something to look forward to in terms of a route of progression at the first time of asking when it comes to the Europa League.
Yeah, what's up, everyone? I'm on here after a win. I don't even know when's the last time I've been after a win. So
we've broken something there. Let's have it continue.
Thank God for that. And like I'm saying in my caption, God bless the academy, because honestly, like the 3 boys to come on and do that is amazing. And obviously, if it wasn't for the injuries and the bad form and so many bad things happening, maybe these boys wouldn't have got their break. So sometimes out of every cloud has a silver lining, and these guys took their chance, and well done to them, man. The game, like Jay said, the first 45 minutes was so boring. Even after the second half, the first 15 minutes, usually when you see an upturn and a bounce and some sort of oomph, there was nothing there. It was really flat. And then it took the kids to come on to really change the game. And we all needed that, man. We all needed it. The crowd was quiet. Everyone was getting a bit nervous. And yeah, like once the first goal went in, you kind of felt that was it. And it's a positive result in the end, a positive finish, finishing 4th after the rocky run we've had. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? We finished 4th in the whole of the league stage after being so bad. That's insane. But yeah, credit to the boys. And hopefully now this is like the bounce we need. And, I'm not going to talk about all the other bad things. I'm just going to talk about the positives today.
Yeah.
And it was great to see the kids come in and really grab the ball by the scruff of the horns, or whichever you want to call it. Sonny looking good, having his man on toes for the first 45 minutes. And there was a lot of positives to take from that. It was good that we got a really poor team at home in our final game. That was just that bit of luck that we needed. We've had so much bad luck and so many things haven't gone our way, but that scheduling was fantastic. It was the right team at the right time. And yeah, we doubled our XG, so that alone says it all for us. So yeah, shout out to everyone tuning in. Shout out to everyone listening to this tomorrow. We got to win, guys. We got to win.
Yeah, I totally agree, Pat. I echo those words. I think you're right what you're saying, Pat. We've come from one night, let's enjoy and let's 100% celebrating the fact we've got 3 academy starlets out there, 3 goal scorers, and Spurs have progressed in Europe. And Tej, I'm cool what I'm going to do here. I left you last. I know you're absolutely bursting to come in. You said online how much you're so excited in terms of seeing 3 starlets, 3 of our graduates come through and give us a real masterclass in the way of finishing in that second half. And I think we've all said it in our opening intro that it has been a tricky season so far, but it's lovely to see these boys come in, smiles on their faces, 3 fantastic goals. And I think, look, as Jason alluded to there, even on a night where we've gone on 1-3-0, there's 3 academy starlets, we've still got to talk about injuries. But the reality is, although Elfsborg weren't the strongest opposition, games like that, Tej, I'm sure you agree, have to be enjoyed for what they're worth. And I know we were saying off there, great to see 3 boys that have come through the academy, done their scholarship, worked so hard to be Tottenham players on the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium turf, scoring the goals in front of the home fans. Will not get any better. And Mikey Moore, bless him, what a lovely moment for him. I know he's waited a long time for that first goal, Mikey Moore. A lovely moment for him as well, Tej.
It's the stuff of dreams. It really is, gang. It cannot be overhyped. It can't be overly celebrated. We cannot heap enough praise on the shoulders of these young boys. If we think about how we as fans love this club and the time and the energy and the expense and the ups and the downs and the heartache and the jubilation, if we imagine we as fans, and now add to that you're not only as ardent a fan, but you have an opportunity to play for the club. And when you're in the academy, academies are so tough. Again, John, of course, has encyclopedic knowledge of football academies. But even us on the outside, we less educated masses than John Wenham, we understand that every single season you're going in there, with members of your family and hoping beyond hope that they say, we're going to give your boy another season. We're going to give him another try. Or we're going to send him out on loan, but we're going to bring him back. It's such a precarious scenario for these children. They're children. Dane Scarlett has been at Tottenham Hotspur since he was 6 years old. And so I'm actually getting emotional talking about it now. Honestly, it brought tears to my eyes to see these kids realize a dream of that magnitude at a time when Pat said it. We all needed that, man. We all needed that. And I'm so happy, so proud. Enormous love, admiration, and respect to these boys and their families and everyone around them who nurtured them through this hellish process. And I'm so appreciative to be on the show after that performance. So thank you, Rick, man. Thank you to all the viewers and listeners. What a special thing we can enjoy tonight as Tottenham fans.
That's a really important point Teach makes there, because, Jason, I mean, look, we've had the pleasure of interviewing a lot of ex-players on this show, ex-managers, and I think Teach makes a really good point there. There would have been points definitely in these young boys' career where they may have felt they weren't going to get their big break. So, I mean, when you have that moment there, a unique evening where not only one scores, not only two scores, but 3 Academy Starlets score on the same night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in Europe. For some, it's their first time.
And
how special is that?
The only ones. The only ones.
The only one.
It's a movie.
Only Tottenham do things like this, Jace, right? I mean, it's crazy, really.
Yeah, and I was sitting there thinking, where the hell is Matthias Tell going to play when these 3 kids come on?
I'm more worried that Daniel Levy now. Apparently he's on a play. Apparently he's involved in the negotiations somewhere now. Don't all lose your heads out there, can I just say? But I mean, going back to that point, how lovely is that, Jace? Because those players, I'm sure, during periods of their time coming to Tottenham or being through the academy, as T alluded to there, they would have had bumps in the road. There would have been no definitive pathway. They were going to see the first team. They've had to fight really hard for it, right?
Yeah, I think particularly for Dane, because he's obviously had a couple of loans that haven't always gone his way. But I know John's always been a big believer in Dane Scarlett, and I think Jose was a big believer, wasn't he, in Dane Scarlett? Where we first saw him get a couple of games in Europa League games or whatever, or a couple of substitution appearances. But yeah, when you've worked that hard, and a couple of weeks ago he's at Oxford, probably didn't, without probably Solanke's injury, I wonder if he'd have even come back. So there's one little bonus for him. But I know Patrck will understand it, because I think Patrick's relative or knows a good friend whose young kid came on at Millwall the other night.
Yeah,
and scored within a couple in the FA Cup, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah,
he came off the bench and scored within 4 or 5 minutes of coming on. So, Patrick might tell us a little bit more about that feeling of pride and that. But it's just a brilliant night for those. But particularly, I think, for Damola, because we do know a little bit about Dane, and we've seen him in pre-season. Mikey's obviously been in around the first team squad this year, but for Callum Molasisi last week and for Damola tonight, that's entirely new names for a lot of people. So it's fantastic for them, their families, and everyone associated with the academy. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally agree on that point. And just obviously bring it into obviously focus now. What that does mean for Tottenham, of course, automatic qualification will mean Tottenham are going to face, just to be very, very clear, one of as things stand, and we are waiting obviously for that update, which will come obviously in that Europa League draw. Spurs will face one of Real Sociedad, Galatasaray, Midtjylland, and Aussie Alkmaar. Those are the 4 teams Tottenham, of one of them, will play in the last 16, and they will be taking place 2-legged clashes, with the first leg taking place on Thursday, the 6th of March, and the second leg on Thursday, the 13th of March. Tottenham, crucially, I think many will like this, will be home. Will be home for that second leg, which I think in Europe, generally, I don't know if everyone's got that feeling that I think in Europe you would like to be at home in the second leg in terms of knowing what you've got to do in front of your home fans there. I mean, I'm just on that point, Jace, do you have a potential favourite out of those 4 teams, or are you fairly relaxed to whoever comes out the hat, which I think, tell me if I'm wrong, it's Friday or Sunday's draw? Remind me, guys. Is it Friday or Sunday? I think Sunday, isn't it? I think it's Sunday. Sure. I think it's Sunday's draw. I'm sure we'll get an update in the comments, though. Listeners will let us know. I think it's Sunday. Do you have a preference, Jason, team-wise for you?
I'd probably, as strange as it seems to people because we lost there, but I'd probably sooner Galatasaray. I just think Spanish sides have so much control. They've traditionally done well in this competition. Sociedad are a Basque side. The final was in Bilbao. They'll definitely. I mean, what a thing it would be for take Tottenham out of the equation. But if you had a Bilbao v Sociedad final in the Basque country, that's got to be the dream final for the Spanish sides. And just tactically and the way they play their football is so much more controlled than anyone else. I think Galatasaray over 2 legs. What did we lose out there? 3-2. We actually, I think we'd be a lot better with a few bodies back and would be a better chance of beating them at home, because it'd be quite a helter-skelter game, I think, whereas Sociedad would control it a lot more, and I actually think would be a harder away leg than Galatasaray in a strange way. But, that's what are we, 3 or 4 weeks away from that.
Yeah.
So hopefully some bodies are back, and there's so much football to be played before then. Let's concentrate on all the games to come, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I will just ask the guys their opinion as well in terms of a preference. Tej, bringing you in there, do you have a preference in terms of team you like to face? I mean, look, many might argue that you would arguably say maybe Midtjylland and Alzey, Alkmaar are more of the weaker teams in there, but I'm not sure. I mean, Jason mentioned he might like the tussle of Galatasaray, home and away, Sociedad. I mean, again, these are teams that, I mean, I'd say they're fairly European, sides that are regular in the form of European competition, whether it's Europa League, Conference League, Champions League. I mean, Tej, do you have a potential favourite that would suit you?
I mean, listen, me, there are no weak sides, certainly not in European competitions. All of these guys are professional footballers and play, up to a certain level and with a certain level of pride and professionalism. So to Jason's point, I really kind of anyone but Sociedad. The Spanish teams just have such a lock on this tournament, and just the culture of how Spanish teams play the game, I just really don't think that suits us right now. I don't think we have the legs or the energy for it because of the plethora of injuries that we've had this season. If I had my pick, it would probably be AZ. But right now, anybody but Sociedad. But you know what? If it is Sociedad, then c'est la vie.
Just on that, Rick, I was assuming that it would be Gala or Sociedad that are through.
Right.
That.
Right. Yes.
I'd love it to be Midtjylland, but I doubt that they'll be the side going through.
Right. I mean, it's an interesting one I have to see. I mean, Patty, do you have a preference at this stage, or are you fairly open with regards to, what side Tottenham will draw?
Just don't give me Galatasaray. I think for me, they'd be the trickiest opponent. And I just think going away to that team again in Turkey and their fans, they're mental. So I think they'd be the toughest opponent. But obviously AZ would probably be my favourite out of the 4 to play. But yeah, as long as just don't give me Galatasaray. Other than that, I'm excited to play any of them, really.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing first and foremost is that we are at ease by the fact Spurs have automatically qualified. And it does set up for Tottenham, as we know now, that 2-legged tie of that round of 16, which again, I'll repeat that date for you. That first leg will take place on Thursday, the 6th of March. That second leg, Thursday, the 13th of March. Crucial aspect to that is that second leg is at home at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And again, just to let listeners and viewers know out there that there was once again demonstrations ahead of the game in which fans once again did voice their displeasure towards Daniel Levy and Enoch, and making it very, very clear fans want a change. So very important that I bring you that at the very, very start, just to let you know. We'll go into the game itself in terms of how it did pan out. Spurs, in terms of their team, as we know, it was, as we know, for Tottenham, a difficult time when it came to essentially who they were going to field, who they weren't going to field for this game. Spurs, in terms of their lineup itself, Ange Postecoglou had obviously Mickey van der Ven back in training after 10 days. He's had to wait to get back on the training field to be given that permission to do so. We had, in terms of the back line, Archie Gray, Ben Davis back in the team alongside the Dutchman, of course. There was also a start for Mikey Moore up front with Richarlison and Heung-Min Son. In terms of other options, Rodrigo Bentancur, Pat Matassar, Lucas Bergvall all started again in the midfield. Well, finally, Dejan Kulusevski finally got himself a rest, along with Radu Dragusin, and we'll come on to Radu a bit later on. Dane Scarlett on the bench, despite the fact if we knew beforehand, if he played, it would mean that he would not be able to move on loan, as you cannot play for 3 clubs in a season. But obviously, given Spurs' injury crisis and Postecoglou having very little option, that Tottenham team did read Austin Porro, Gray, Van der Ven, Davis, Benson Corsard, Bergvall, Moore, Sonny, the captain, Richarlison also on the field with a bench of Forster, Whiteman, Hardy, Dragusin, Casanova, Bissouma, Ajayi, Alusise, Kulusevski, Scarlett, Lancashire. Let me ask you that point, Tej. How important was it for you that Decky got some form of a rest? Because he has quite literally, you've got to say, Dejan Kulusevski, been worked right through this crazy period of fixtures. Was it actually a relief to see Decky given some aspect of a rest for this one?
Yeah, definitely. And, not to go off on too wild a tangent, but I also think that his comments came at exactly the right time. And I just think as well, it just gives us a little bit more insight into personally how players feel both physically and mentally when you're trying to play in 4 competitions with 8 fit senior players over the age of 18. If we can just let that sink in. 8 fit senior players over the age of 18 playing in 4 different tournaments. And so his comments were so succinct and timely. And so, the poor, he's only a kid. We talk about this. He's such a man-child, Kulu. He looks about 46. He's all of about 22, 23. He looks like he's been chopping trees down in some Swedish forest, for the last 30 years. He's only a pup. And his wheels are coming off. And so if you look at him with his seemingly tireless energy and abundant engine, if he is saying, I'm really hurting, I'm really, really hurting, it just gives us insight into how that squad is thinking and feeling both physically and mentally. And so, I was really happy that he got the half off. And then when he came on and had a great half. So, delighted for him, man. There are some players, you look at them and you go, God, you deserve more, mate. Yep. You deserve more, and he's one of them. So I was really happy for him, Rick.
Yeah. I mean, it's on that point. I mean, it is. I mean, Pat, coming over to you. Look, you support this club like me for many, many years. God help you, bless you. Have you ever known a time like this, Pat, in terms of what we're going through with the injury situation? It is a very unique situation, as Tej alludes to there. We've got at the moment, just to be clear, 8 senior players over the age of 18. Decky finally has got a rest. I mean, how important was to give Decky a little bit of time off, given that we're going to probably need him again for Brentford at the weekend? I mean, we are in absolutely crazy circumstances right now. We know why we're in these circumstances, because of the lack of investment so far in this transfer window. Day 30, and like I say, it'll be day 31 for our listeners on audio, who will be quite worried as to where we are. And for Jason's relief, I will be giving a very, very brief transfer window roundup at the end of this show as to where we are, not during the show. And I can tell listeners on audio, Jason's put his hands on his head, because we have to let everyone know where we go and where we stand. And I'm sure many can't believe I'm going to. I will just let our listeners on audio know I will try and ask Jason where we are. I can't promise you'll give me an answer with what will come out of his mouth, because the look I'm getting is right now of disgust. But Pat, I'll come back onto that point. Yeah. It is unprecedented circumstances, what the injury situation we find ourselves in. And to be fair to the players that are out there are still giving everything to the cause. Is that a fair comment from me to say that?
Yeah, it's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Maybe people in the comments who obviously have been, watching Spurs a bit longer than me will be able to tell us. But from what I've seen, I've never known a crisis this long, if that makes sense. Hopefully now, sometimes when you go through like adversity and you face it full on or front on, and you go through the storm, you come out and you're stronger. And even though you couldn't see it at the time, it makes everyone better. Like the fact that Gray and Bergvall have had to play so many games in such tough circumstances, that can only do them good. Obviously, it's not great for us right now, but I'm just hoping that's the positive spin on it. And Kulu, I didn't really want to see him on the pitch today, I'm not going to lie. And I was hoping we wouldn't have to, put him on, but we had to. And obviously you see the quality straight away. That cross for Dane Scarlett's goal that literally put it right between the defenders, and Scarlett with the immaculate header. And that just shows the quality of Kulusevski and how strong he is. People trying to bounce him off the ball and they end up falling over. And he's just an ox. He's got great strength, but he's also got that quality and that guile to produce a bit of magic when needed. So it was good that he obviously came on and helped change the game as well. And it's just about protecting the players like Kulusevski and even like your Bentancurs to a degree, because these guys, we need them. And there's so many tough games coming up, so many crucial games coming up, and we can't dare to get any of those guys injured. So it was great to see him come on, great to see him help change the game. His comments definitely made sense. I mean, you add that to Son's comments and Romero's comments.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yep.
You can see exactly where these guys' heads are at. And it's pretty much, it echoes and mirrors what the fans have been saying for a long, long time. And there's a couple of days left in the window. Let's see what happens. I don't think any of us Spurs fans are that optimistic, but we just hope and pray that these guys do something for us.
It's interesting on this point, Jace, to bring you in there. I mean, look, I think we don't sometimes maybe give credit enough to those players that are having to play through this incredibly excruciating period of games. And I think maybe it's a lot easier to acknowledge it when we win rather than when we lose. I mean, I suppose the question I can ask you, how much credit do you feel does go to those players that are continually having to go out there every 3 to 4 days? I'm looking at namely the likes of obviously Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray, that are continuing to play through this period. I mean, how much credit do you give the guys that are having to continue to play through this period of no rest? Because I think you've made this point quite often, actually, off air to me, that there is really no degree of training you can do. It is literally recovery day and go again. So is this an opportunity to actually give the players some credit for going through an extremely tough period where, as we know, results, we want them to be better. They need to be better. But player-wise, can you ask anything more of what they are giving to the cause at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Hoffenheim was a huge draining effort for those players. And, the effort in Hoffenheim last week, despite the people having a go at Hoffenheim's quality, was huge. And then I was there on Sunday and I was just talking to Patrck. You could see those players, Sunday to me wasn't about tactics or anything like that. Those players were completely gone on Sunday. You could see Porro losing 5-yard sprints. You could see Harry Winks shoving Bentancur out the way, just in physicality. And Richarlison on Sunday, I thought was a disgrace to see him on the pitch. And I don't mean that in any bad way to Richarlison at all. But you could see if the ball wasn't anywhere near his feet, he just couldn't go for it. He was so unfit, which isn't surprising. And I thought he did brilliantly to score his goal. But if there was a lost cause, or we know Richarlison's quite a physical player. You could see it just wasn't there in him. And he obviously hasn't got the fatigue of others. But I looked at that team Sunday and thought, Jesus, there's Patrck, no recovery runs whatsoever on Sunday. And I was actually glad it was Leicester, not Tamworth on Sunday, because I'd have been seriously worried if it was Tamworth on Sunday. The physicality was miles away from where you should be. So I wasn't, tonight we at least haven't had to go through extreme physicalities. And with a few coming back will help. But yeah, those players haven't. And it is, when everyone's talking about, Ange needs to adapt, Ange needs to do this in training. They can't have a proper training session. How can you have an adaptation for a Premier League game when you've got 8 senior players? The kids in the academy can't play at the same intensity as Premier League sides can. So when everyone's imploding for him to change things, how can he work on changing it? You saw that for Everton. They tried to change something, but they obviously hadn't worked on it in training, and it's blitzed in 30 minutes when we are 3-0 down. So, the levels that these players have to go through on the pitch, but also what's going on behind closed doors. You got people saying, Angie's running them into the ground. And then we're saying we also want him to adapt. Well, if you can't work on training to adapt because you're running them into the ground, what are you supposed to do at the moment? So I think there's a lot of things that are being fired backwards and forwards, but I feel for the whole club at the moment, with the exception of those in the boardroom, for what they're going through, because it's a lot. And then just when you think maybe you can get Dragusin through half a game, maybe you can get Archie Gray off with half an hour to go to give him a bit of a break, bang, there goes another one. And, Dragusin's, we don't know what the injury is, but there's no way he'll be fit for Brentford. You could see that, or probably not for Liverpool. So, again, those players have got to go through it at Brentford. In a weird way, I'd almost not throw the game at Brentford, but I wouldn't be unhappy not to see Decky and Richie and that even start the game at Brentford. I think you've got to try and get as many people to Anfield next Thursday in the best physical condition. And you know what? If we lose to Brentford, we lose to them. But I know there'll be a lot of people say, yeah, but then Everton will be above us and we'll be 16th and blah, blah, blah. But let's be honest, our first team going to Brentford in the last 3 years have only got a point each year.
It's always a tough place to go.
Would
It
one
is a
point
tough
make
place to
that
go.
much of a difference to us
Yeah.
as opposed to going to Anfield with not with a fully fresh squad, but with as many people in as decent physical condition, like Porro, like Decky, like Richie? I'd just sooner see that, mate, than trying to drag people through Brentford again.
I hear you, but I think there'll be a lot of fans out there that are very much. I know you are more relaxed than others about the fact that we're not going to get relegated. I don't think we are going to get relegated, but I think there is a genuine fear out there that whatever happens points-wise, we're going to pick up more points, Jesse. It's one win in 11 Premier League games, so we do need points.
Yeah, I totally get that. But imagine going to Brentford with a full team, losing at Brentford or nicking a point, and then going to Anfield with people completely flat on their backs. It's, for me, Anfield is far more important than I presume. When do Everton and that's Saturday, isn't it? Everton's game.
I think it's Saturday. I think that is Saturday.
I don't know when Ipswich and Wolves play this week. But, if those teams don't pick up points and Leicester don't pick up points, you could say, right, we don't play until the Sunday, so pull 1 or 2 on Sunday morning out the game if you have to.
I think, like I say, I mean, look, there'll be a balancing act there because there'll be some fans that are right with you, Jay, saying that 100% in terms of the upcoming games. Most definitely, the Liverpool game does take a central focus. There'll be other fans out there, as you know, that travel home and away that will want to be going to Brentford 100%, seeing the most competitive Tottenham side get a result. I'm sure you'll back that up as well, right? You'll agree on that point.
Yeah, I understand it. I understand. Or maybe remember when Conte, when we lost 3-1, I think, at the Emirates and Emerson was sent off and he started taking players off, didn't he? As if he thought, that's it. So maybe you get to 60 minutes at Brentford and if you're 2-0 down or something like that, you just think, what's the point of going through this? So take them off early and you think, right, we just have to forget the last half hour.
Yeah, and I must make it stressed because our listeners, the listeners in the comments, I must say, the viewers are employing the fact we are aware we are only 8 points off the bottom, I think, but there is a general feeling amongst some of the fan base, not all the fan base, that maybe those 3 teams at the bottom are not going to make up the relative points to be able to catch us. But even us having this conversation is beyond any sense of logic and comprehension while we're having this, and is, again, a detriment as to why we are here where we are in day 30 of the window for our listeners on the show, but for our ones on audio, it's 31. And Spurs are yet to sign a single outfield player.
Just on the league position, Rick, if Everton beat Southampton and go above us, it doesn't matter if Everton are above us in terms of the R word, it's where's the bottom 3 to Tottenham? And if we kick off Sunday, still 8 points clear of the zone, doesn't really matter that Everton have gone above us, does it?
It doesn't, but I think psychologically, to a lot of fans,
we need to win some games, man. We need to win some games, and we ideally you want to go into the Thursday game full of beans, full of confidence. 2 wins on the spin. That does so much for the morale, for the fans, for the players. You lose again, and we're right back to where we were. So no, we need to win on Sunday. 100%.
I think an interesting point that Pat makes there, Jace. You talk about noise. Suddenly, if we don't get a result against Brentford, all that noise starts to come back, and it makes it even harder to get a result. I mean, look, T, just on that point for you, it's an interesting point. You're back with us, obviously, for Liverpool as well. It's an interesting week coming up, isn't it? Because, again, we'll stress the fact, I'm sure you'll make it clear, Tottenham do need to pick up Premier League points. There's no doubt about that. But I think if you ask every Tottenham fan, and they'll be in agreement with Jason, in terms of what is the bigger game, Liverpool is definitely the bigger game next week. But where I do bow down to what Pat says, you want to go into that Liverpool game with confidence and with that lack of noise that you actually spoke about, TJ, a lot on here, trying to silence that noise going into that massive cup semi-final second leg.
Yeah, I mean, listen, welcome to a fraction of the experience of a football manager. What do? You're constantly stuck between a rock and a hard place. The situation we're in right now, and I'm sure we've all seen dozens of films when, that unit is stuck behind enemy lines and they're calling in to the higher ups, to send in, backup or whatever, and some, politician kind of hangs up the phone.
We've been waiting for that for 31 days.
yeah, exactly. So, I'm thinking about that great movie Clear and Present Danger, when those SEALs are stuck behind enemy lines in Colombia and the politicians are kind of hanging the phone up and just leaving them out to dry. So, that's where we are right now. We're on our own. And even if we do get Tell, Okay, great. You know, like not that I'm saying I don't want the guy, but
Yep.
one, you know, I mean, goodness me. Anyway, so look, the have the cake and eat it too scenario is that we go to Brentford, maybe start a really strong 11. This is pie in the sky stuff. Go like 2 up if we can, and then rest them and see if we can make it through. Right? I mean, is that going to happen? I don't think that's going to happen. But for me, what's the most important game is Liverpool. But to Pat's point, do we have a better chance of beating Liverpool if we beat Brentwood and get that additional booster? It's so difficult, guys. You know, we're getting into the minutiae of physical versus mental versus morale versus, you know, fatigue. It's so difficult. Of course, we want to win every game. If I were to choose, if someone gave me the luxury of saying, TJ, you can choose, you lose Brentwood and win Liverpool, I'll take the latter. But unfortunately, we're not in that position.
You can tell me and TJ have been exchanging voice notes, because I've been saying to him, I'm in Brentwood, and he keeps saying, Brentwood. We are where it's Brentford. We are where it's Brentford. We keep saying Brentwood. I've been saying Brentwood.
Yeah, not Brentwood. Yeah, sorry, Brentford.
I wish it was Brentwood. We might have more of a chance. It's definitely Brentford. We might be able to beat Brentwood and Liverpool in 1 week. Definitely Brentwood. I tell you, I'm going to bring in Andrew's comments very quickly from that game. Andrew's been speaking to the press after Spurs' win, of course, over Elfsborg by 3-0. Ange Postecoglou has said for him, it's been a pretty good European campaign so far in charge of Spurs. We've had a little bit of adversity to deal with it. Even in the first game, I remember when we were down to 10 minutes, after 10 minutes, we've dealt with it all pretty well. We are where we want to be in terms of that round of 16, a great position. And it gives us a couple of more weeks to get players back. So hopefully by the time those knockout rounds come, we'll have some more fit bodies back there, help the group, and it's an exciting challenge for us. He reiterated the point for him. It was a night made in Tottenham. It's brilliant for the club. And I'm sure there are many academy coaches and players who won't sleep much after that game. And it's a great opportunity to cherish and celebrate some of these young lads on the night. We've got a big week coming up, as we've just alluded to here, and we've got to try and manage the workload of our players and try to protect them. We kind of knew we would have to rely on some of the younger players, and all the way through this campaign, to be honest, I thought they really stood up. The whole group played really well, but we're going to need them in terms of these next couple of weeks potentially as well, not just the 3 goal scorers. We had a couple of 18-year-olds in there who continue to drive us on. So it's a great night for the club, something the whole academy should be proud of. He was asked about when he let Dane know he was going to play a part of the game, and he said, look, we had a situation. He had a couple of disappointing loans. I think send him out a game without any sort of real prospect of him developing. We just felt, let's keep him with us, keep him training, and give him the chance and the opportunity to play and see how he does. And look what he did for us. And was asked over the Radu Dragusin and Mickey van der Ven situation, which occurred during that game, and commented on that the 3 at halftime were all planned. All 3 are okay. We've got a big week coming up. Just trying to manage this group now. They've given everything they possibly can. Unfortunately, Radu has hurt his knee. I don't have any further information, but it didn't look good. And we'll just have to wait and see. But Mickey did get through it fine. It was always going to be 45 for Mickey, and he's a quality player. You could see that by Mickey's presence out there during the game. And with the injured guys, we've got quite a few that we have. It's a real positive energy to have Mickey back. Hopefully, the next 2 weeks, we'll get some more bodies back as well, which will hopefully inject some energy into the group. Ange did come back and explain the point about the fact that I definitely saw it for the TNT coverage. They caught a snippet of what like Ange Postecoglou doing a hamstring of his own and said, look, to be fair, if I do it, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, you've still got to enjoy it. It's a great night for the club. It was a great story to tell. There aren't many European nights where 3 homegrown products get on the score sheet, and 100% you have to agree with that. He actually was asked a question, I think, as Tej alluded to. Do you fear the club might keep the checkbook closed now after those academy scorers did hit the back of the net? And Postecoglou said in response to that, no. I've been saying all along, it's a tough period in terms of our league form, but there has been real growth. It will all come to fruition at some point. The younger players in what we're trying to do here is absolutely massive. But right now, it is about trying to address the situations that are at hand. I can see, Jason, you've got your finger up there to come in. What do you want to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, don't forget, also 4 academy products scored tonight because Troy Parrott did as well.
He did. Yeah, Troy Patrck did score. He did want to make a comment on Mikey Moore and said, look, I think he started the game really well, but he had a bit of a struggle after that. I think you have to remember with Mikey, he's only 17, and I'm sure that goal at the end will give him massive, massive confidence, and he keeps developing the way he is. We nurse him along, we protect him. He's got all the attributes to be an absolutely outstanding talent. He'll remember this game for what it was. Scoring a great goal at home in Europe is great for him, but he knows he's still got a lot of work to do. And was pushed further about whether he will continue to use the academy players during this period. And he said, look, I don't know. I don't know if we've got any more, mate. The reality is at the moment, we are finishing European games with 5 or 6 teenagers on the field. It's a challenge for us, but it's credit to the lads. They're just cracking on with it. And the young boys are taking their opportunities. They'll all bear fruit in time. The exposure that we've given them, the growth they've made, I'm sure they'll all be massively encouraged. And I think the rest of the academy will too. The younger players out there, they're giving them everything for the football club. And Ange was asked if he's actually ever had a more satisfying night in when Europe comes along to have 2 kids come on and score and Mike adding a third. He said, look, it's great, but it's a more prouder moment for the club rather than for me. That's what academies are for. That's what these boys are for. That's what these 3 boys have done by scoring and in the magnitude of the game that we were in. We once again want to make the point. We're in a tough spot in the league, but obviously I think it'll be a huge enjoyable evening for everybody. And just the fact that those 3 boys, young boys, 3 Tottenham lads have scored on a European night, I just think it's great for the club. My mind now is on Sunday and trying to make sure we get our league form back to where it needs to be. So Ange Postecoglou firmly focused on what is to come against Brentford. We are going to go for our belated first break of the show. For our listeners and audio, we have got nearly over 8,000 of you that are watching the show live. As always, guys, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. Pat took the words out of my mouth really with his intro and he said, was a boring first 45 minutes, which means we haven't really got much to tell you about the first 45 minutes because in all of it, really, like I said, we had those early chants for Daniel Levy to be leaving the football club. We had a bit of an exciting run for Mikey Moore, who jinked past a few and had a go. There was a little bit of a telling off in there for Lucas Bergvall from Ange Postecoglou, who he felt was maybe getting a bit carried away, obviously being back against or in front of his homeland of fans in Sweden. He was at a ticking off a number of times by Ange for maybe going in a bit heavy-handed in those opening phases. But I think what you would just say is in that opening phase, I think you saw a Heung-Min Son that we haven't seen in a very, very long time where he had his fullback on toast. There was certain runs of Sonny that would take you back to the days where Sonny was absolutely at his absolute peak. There was a fantastic save from Pedersen to deny Sarr from close range, and that really should have been the opening goal. But we kind of had 9 successful dribbles, 3 chances created within the first half. And I think many would argue that we were lacking really that final pass that we've had in most aspects, but it wasn't a classic contest by far. But I just wonder on that point of Sonny.
For our listeners on audio, Rick is currently frozen, but we'll be back with you shortly. This is your captain speaking. We're currently cruising at an altitude of 35,000 feet. The in-cabin flight staff will be passing through the plane shortly with light refreshments. Apparently,
Ricky's injured.
Ricky's pulled a hammy.
Ricky's pulled a hammy.
Oh man, what's going on with this club, man?
So we scored 1, we scored 2, we scored 3, and that's the end of the game.
And then that was that.
Anyway, nice to have you on board, Patrick. I'll see you Sunday. Cheers, team game.
Exactly.
Just before I leave,
enjoy the croissant, Jason. I'll see you Sunday.
Up the Spurs.
And I didn't catch it. What the Brentford prediction was for? Sonny, very quickly, Patty, on that point. You know, we saw an element of what he's been about. What we saw the Sonny that I think we'd love to see normally in that first half. Can we get that Sonny on a more regular basis, Pat? Is it a one-off? Was it the defender just simply being on toast, or is there signs of Sonny coming back to the player that we all hope and adore he can be?
Yeah, no, definitely. Remember last week I put a tweet out after we scored 2 goals, away from home in a do-or-die game for us, saying that's the Son I want to see stand up. Basically, you want to see your best player stand up and be counted when the back's against the wall, when they go and get stuff. Last week he did that. First week he was first half, today, really good. The step overs, the defenders didn't know which way he was going. He was creating chances. It was really difficult as well because obviously they had 10 people camped behind the ball. They were really defensively they were solid, they were sound. They were disciplined, and it's hard when there's so many players inside the box to try, and obviously everything has to be inch perfect, doesn't it? You literally have to thread the ball through the eye of the needle, and that's where we kind of became unstuck. But Son was definitely doing his bit to create chances and get them out of rhythm and sync. And yeah, Son has looked much better over the last couple of weeks, and we definitely need to see that Son going into the crunch time, do or die part of the season, business end of the season. And
Amen.
yeah, I think we will see it, because we are starting to see it against Liverpool away. How brilliant would it be if we see Son at his peak again, curling balls into the top corner, creating chances, and us getting away, leaving Anfield with a win? That's the Son I want to see on Thursday.
Amen. And just as I'm back, Jason's like he's going down for hammy.
Has he gone again? Rick, you there? TJ, you're on mute.
Ladies and
There you
gentlemen, your captain again speaking. Sadly, we have come across some unexpected turbulence, and
I'll tell you what,
the first mate, Ricky
Jason's
Sachs,
doing a
has
hammy.
gone
I'm doing a hammy. I tell you what, can we try and laugh the show out here? I tell you what, we're losing an audience. We're losing the guests on this bloody show. What can I say? It's a typical Europa League Thursday night. I jokingly said we come to the end of that first half. We had Sarr walking off the pitch very gingerly at half time. And, Patrck did actually mention before, and he was carrying something. And I think we've made that point there, the Van der Ven substitution was pre-planned. So then Spurs make that triple change at the break. We bring on Dragusin, Kulusevski and Basuma on for Van der Ven, Son and Bentancur. And Patrck was just trying to give players a rest. And during this kind of early triple change period, we do get a bit of a threat and a warning, because there's Abdoulaye dangerously close to giving Elfsborg the lead with an acrobatic effort. And just a reminder, Spurs do need to keep vigilant on their game, because that was a bit of a scare at the early part of that second half. And again, this is where, as Jason alluded to, there's an awkward moment for Radu Dragusin, because, if our worst fears weren't realised, again, we're in a situation where we get one back in Mickey Van der Ven, and then down goes another one in Radu Dragusin. And Patrck has confirmed after the game that we will need to have a further extent of examination on Radu, in which there's that awkward moment. He plants his leg down while falling and hurts his knee. He looked to be in quite a degree of pain. And again, he looked like he was about to come back on, but he did a jump on the sideline, felt something again. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen, as we've discussed actually earlier on, a period of such... Anthony Costa uses the word "we're cursed," bless him. You would say in terms of the injuries, I don't think there's ever a word for it, Jason. Have you ever known this vicious cycle where one centre-back returns from injury, down goes another one? It is unbelievable, isn't it? You couldn't... I know fans are often accused in the past of moaning about injuries, but, you've got to feel for us here. This is beyond any sort of comprehension, isn't it? You bring one back, you lose another one. You ever seen anything like this in your time of supporting Tottenham or in general football?
I know we've had big injuries in the past, but this is crazy. And, when everyone talks about hamstrings and things, the amount of injuries and suspensions and things like that we've had this year that are nothing to do with hamstrings and muscles. And there's another one tonight. You look at Vicario, he's just back on his feet in training, and another one goes down. I have never known anything like this. And you have to have sympathy with the management and that. But I don't know what you do. You got to train, you got to play.
We are quite simply losing the guests as we go here. Jason is right.
It's crazy.
You've got to train.
He didn't do that on purpose, did he?
He's had enough.
Now Ricky's gone again.
Oh, Jesus.
Honestly, this is just
Oh,
utterly bizarre.
Ricky, are you back?
There he's back.
What is going on here?
I don't know.
Has Enid got our network tonight? Has it got our network? I can't believe what I'm saying here. Look,
I wouldn't put it past them.
For all of our sake, let's steer away from injuries. But we will get an update in the next day or so on what is going on to where we stand on Radu Dragusin. It is a concern. Ricky comes back, we lose Jason. I don't even think we're planning this. We are really not planning this. This is a real concern.
Oh, man.
Yeah, this is crazy.
I wonder if Rick needs to refresh or something. Maybe we are being hacked. Maybe the club is hacking us.
Donna Cullen, get out.
Listen,
out.
The last episode we did, that went everywhere. That
it was quite spicy.
It was.
It was quite spicy. Oh man. Oh well, yeah, it's just you and I now.
Just you and I. Look, we could play ping pong or something. Have a little Forrest Gump moment, you know.
Oh man. So yeah, what else? To be fair, what should we talk about?
I mean, listen, so first half, right? Talking about Sonny, you know, that's really positive, man, because, you know, to your point, he hasn't looked good for ages, right?
No,
so
he
whatever
hasn't.
it was that he was feeling today, let him feel that more often, because so much of his ability is about confidence. And the fact that he had that young lad on toast, that's really positive.
That's the Son that I need to see, like going into this crucial, you know, block of games, and he can do it. We know he can do it. And you know, if he can be that creative spark and get the players, sometimes you just need somebody to take the reins. And
also he only had 45 minutes, which is great, you know, so he could go into Brentford or even to Brentwood, and you know, hopefully you know, with a kind of hot step. I mean, his step, that left step over right, that right step over left,
it's crazy.
It's the best in the business.
You literally don't know which way he's going to go, and the thing is,
you can't show him down the line, and you can't show him inside.
Son is so two-footed. Yeah, he's so good at doing that. It's just unfortunately, we just couldn't find that final ball. But yeah, he looked good today. He looked really good.
Yeah. Anyway, Ricky, do you want to
Avengers have assembled. TJ, thank you so much. My co-pilot over there for handling it more than once as me and Jason fight a hefty lot of turbulence there. You can see who's got the better broadband at the moment, although I did upgrade mine not too long ago. So what's happening there? I'm not too sure. Look, one thing I will let you know, in terms of Dane Scarlett being introduced onto the pitch, you would presume that will free up the opportunity for Will Lancashire to move on loan. And Patrck has said actually after the game with regards to Will that he is expected potentially to head out on loan. We understand, according to Ali, girlfriend of the show, that there are numerous clubs interested in the Championship, including Burnley, Middlesbrough, West Brom, Cardiff and Luton, all interested. As Lancashire departed, Scarlett came on and Tottenham went 1 up in what was a lovely, lovely header from Dane Scarlett in a lovely move from Tottenham. Kulu sitting in a lovely cross. The 20-year-old headed home his first goal for Tottenham. Lovely moment for him. Round of applause. Postecoglou on the touchline. And Pat, I'm sure you agree in that moment. I think there was a sense of relief because, you know, when a score.
Oh. Hello.
Talk about Dane's goal, Pat.
Yeah. So no, I mean, like I said earlier, I think the Kulu with the cross, literally putting it right between the two defenders, and Dane Scarlett's movement was brilliant. And it was just a cute header, you know, not too much power in it, just flicking it right on target. Great goal. And it was needed because it felt so flat, and I genuinely thought we weren't going to score up until that moment. We just didn't look like scoring, did we? We had so much of the ball, but we didn't really test the goalkeeper. So that goal came at the right time.
Well, it wasn't work. I mean, listen, Sonny was getting to the byline whenever he wanted.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Mikey Moore had a great opening 10 minutes, but then kind of disappeared after that. Just wasn't getting the ball. But also, I think every player knew just pass it to Sonny because he's going to make it past this right back every day of the week. And so the fact, to your point, that the ball from Porro was sublime. But again, as anyone who's played the game or even watched the game, you know, you're a lone striker, and it's not like Dane's the tallest player out there. You're a lone striker in between two hulking centre-backs. Not only do you have to get your timing right, so you're not caught offside, but you also have to time the jump. And again, to your point, Pat, do anything but head it right at the goalkeeper, which he very easily could have done.
No, it was a brilliant finish, and it was needed, man. And it was just great to see him score because obviously he's a young striker. He's been on loan so many times, and the fans and even probably himself, he's starting to question, will he ever get that run? Will he ever get that vote of confidence? And will he ever get the time to score and feature in the Spurs side? And thankfully, because of the injuries and because of how things have tailed out, he did get the chance today. And now it's just the youngsters just need to take the opportunities when they come, and hopefully this will push on his career. Because, he's young, he looks talented, he looks gifted, and now he just needs that chance.
I totally agree, boys. And hopefully I'm back for now. I'm not sure what is going on in the back works at all. We'll see how we get on here. Jason, the same. We got to say, just to be clear, me and Jason aren't in the same house. So something is going on in terms of the back end. I'm not sure what is going on. We'll try and go with Jason if we can. Jace, look, it's a lovely moment for him. Dane Scarlett, of course, back from loan in literally the last couple of days or so for Dane. You know, obviously the Oxford loan didn't go as planned, but there was some real power behind that header, a great technique. And do you know what? I remember he had just got a cracking header in pre-season, didn't he? I think we're going back a year or so ago now. I want to say when I think Kane played, I think Kane's final preseason game, was it? I can't remember who he played now. Patty might have to help me out. Was it Shakhtar?
Yeah,
I think
Shakhtar
I don't think that was a header, was it?
Was it a header? Was it?
Yeah,
Forgive me.
5-0. Kane scored 4.
5-0. But I think Dane on that day, actually, there's a lot of fans at the time that felt this kid looks promising. He went out on loan again. I mean, I suppose the key question to ask here, in your opinion, Jace, does Dane Scarlett have any kind of a future at Tottenham, or is he going to be one of those players that he's going to keep on being loaned out? I mean, because at some point, what is going to be the plan for Dane? We have been here a couple of times before where had a good game, goes back out on loan. He's not mentioned for another 6-12 months. Where are we with Dane in your mind?
Next 4 or 5 months will tell us, won't we? I mean, if Solanke's out for as long as he is, I'm sure Scarlett will get more minutes. I remember saying in pre-season, physically, he looks totally different to what he did.
That's true.
12, 18 months ago. He's certainly bulked up physically. He had a really good summer tournament, I think, for England's underage group. Was it just the summer that's just gone? I think did well. If he scores 4 or 5 goals between now and the end of the season, or gets a couple of big goals in big games, then of course they'll keep him around. It's up to him, isn't it? Like any young kid, it's up to him to make the most of the minutes he gets.
Jason, do you have an idea, or any of you guys? Which kind of number 9 is he going to be? Is he going to be a fox in the box? Is he going to be somebody who sprints in behind? Is he someone who beats a man? And what? Because I don't know him well enough.
It's an interesting point you make. I think that's a fair point. I think is it fair that we're still kind of getting to know that, Pat? Is that a fair point with Dane? I mean, is it hard to say at this stage? We're not sure what he's going to be because we've got some time to be able to qualify that point, Pat.
That's fair. It's very fair. I don't know either. I would be lying if I sat here and said, "Oh, he's a person that drops his shoulder," and I don't know. So
I don't think he's particularly fast. I haven't seen him. Like when a player's quick, you just see it. You're like,
it looks like he's got good movement. It looks like he's got good movement. He stayed on side and
he's intelligent.
He's intelligent, and it looked like obviously the link up play for the second goal was really good. So it looks like he's got that intelligence about him. But we'll have to wait and see. Like Jace rightly said, the next 3 or 4 months will teach us a lot about all of these kids. Really,
Jason, do you know? Have you seen enough of him?
Not enough of him at senior football level as well. There's a lot of difference between what you see at academy level and then when you get in the side. And of course, long-term future, it will be how they view Jamie Donnelly when he comes back.
Who's lighting it up.
You can't keep 3 or 4 youngsters, can you? So, it will be a case of, when you've got 3 or 4 in one position, if Lancashire does well out on loan and he comes back in the summer, and Spurs will say, let's go and sign another striker to replace Richarlison, suddenly,
of all
where
of
the hell
those,
do they all go?
when you were talking about Lancashire, Rick, I was thinking about those teams, and you said Burnley, Middlesbrough, Luton, and I was thinking, where would I like him to go? Like, which system would suit him? I mean,
West Brom in there as well, and Cardiff. West Brom and Cardiff in there as well.
Is it a Burnley, and he just
probably a Burnley because they're more likely to be in the Premier League next year, so they probably play the kind of football that is more.
Scotty Parker, Jace. Scotty Parker. You put on the face about Scotty Parker.
Yeah,
I think if you've seen Burnley this year, they've only conceded 9 goals. They've had 5 or 6 0-0 home games.
I was going to say, are they scoring, Jay?
I saw. Well, it's not even scoring. I saw them playing Leeds the other week. I don't think they had a shot on target in 90 minutes. They didn't create a chance.
They just don't lose.
That's why they want him. That's why they want him.
I think the week before I saw them where the keeper made 2 penalty saves. I don't think they had a shot at goal. That's 2 home games they've not had a shot at goal in.
Because I always like Middlesbrough. Whenever I see Middlesbrough play, they play quite attacking football. They're whipping balls into the box. Like, they seem to have not, inverted fullback. Like, they seem quite attacking. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to think like which one is best for him and then ultimately best for us.
I think on that point there, one we'll have to keep an eye on because I think we'll see what Spurs' predicament will be. We know we're going to come on to it very, very shortly. What they're trying to do in these next couple of days or so might define that. But I mean, what I will say is I don't think many have seen it out there. It took him 4 minutes to match Timo Werner's goal tally for the season in Dane Scarlett. So, a lovely moment for Dane, actually, because the fans singing he's one of our own. And that was followed up very, very quickly for Spurs getting a second goal of the game, which, again, was a lovely moment, a lovely move for Ajayi in their Spurs debut. He comes on, and what a moment this is. He dribbles past a cut ball inside, plays a 1-2 with Scarlett, buries a shot inside the right-hand post. Lovely, lovely finish. An incredible debut moment for the 19-year-old. Big grin and celebration from Ange Postecoglou. And going back to that point, Pat, what a lovely moment for this kid to come on. First ever game for Tottenham and score. And what a great goal it was, Patty, to put it away the way he did it.
Put it away in front of the home fans, and you could just see the joy and the jubilation on his face and the celebration, and just how everyone, went to him and celebrated with him. And even after the game, Sonny literally cuddling him as he walking off the pitch. It was beautiful to see, man. And the game, like I said before, was so boring, and I was literally almost falling asleep. But the way it ended, in terms of those 3 magical moments, and then seeing us get a win, seeing that happen at home, comfortably going through, and just giving everyone a lift, I thought in the end it was like the perfect ending. So no, it was great. And it was great that the 3 academy kids scored, and they were all top goals as well. No gimmies, all top goals, all nicely created, and it was fantastic to see, man.
It was indeed.
Also,
I love the move from Tottenham.
I was just pleased that they've all done it at home in a proper European. You can question Elfsborg, but a European game at home in front of the South Stand is just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah,
imagine if they'd have got one, or one of them had come and done it at Tamworth. It just wouldn't have had that kudos to it at Tamworth, would it? And
especially because it's a game that we needed to win. We needed to finish in the top 8. The games off. I mean, that's a huge win as well. The fact that we don't have to play an additional couple of games, massive. Massive. And I think that those qualifying games would be home and away as well.
They are, they're home and away, tough games. Yeah.
So you've dodged 4 games, and we can't get in and off the bus without injuring ourselves.
I know. We can't get on the podcast without injuring ourselves the way it's going on tonight. I tell you, it's been a mental night.
Yeah.
Like I say, Spurs, lovely for them, 2-0 up, cruising, and then Mikey Moore really putting the icing on top of a very nice cake for Tottenham, 3-0. And then this is all really made by himself. A lovely run from Mikey, runs up the pitch, cuts inside his man, and buries a great shot into the bottom corner, in which, again, we'll make that point there for Mikey. A special moment for him, his first ever Tottenham goal. And 3 goals, something to really celebrate. And for Mikey Moore, he does become the youngest Englishman to score a major European goal. 17 years, 172 days, breaking a record held by Jimmy Greaves since 1957, in which at that point was 17 years, 245 days. I think we all agree that Mikey Moore, it does feel he's got such a massive, massive future ahead of him for Tottenham. TJ, how excited are you by Mikey Moore? I know John, we saw him in December. We know how much John absolutely loves this kid and has got such a high ceiling. These are the kind of players that you need to show, for want of a better word, you have ambition, because these players are special. We want to build around Mikey, don't we? He's a special talent.
Yes, absolutely, he is. And as well, of all the people to take a record from, I mean, as a Tottenham player, to take a record from Jimmy Greaves, I mean, again, it just doesn't get better than that, does it? I mean, this boy, his family, again, you talk to John about it. I mean, and John is the font of knowledge on these young kids. And so the fact that you're coming into the Premier League and also you're not just kind of coming in and running around and playing 5-yard passes, you're coming in and you're immediately taking people on, you're whipping crosses into the box. I know tonight was a European game, but same. I mean, what time is it? It's past the watershed, isn't it? It's midnight for you guys back home. So, to quote Robert De Niro from Casino, the ball's on this kid. You know what I mean? The ball's on this kid to take players on at that level. It's incredibly exciting. And again, so if we can kind of make it through this season, whatever happens this season, I know people are saying, we're 8 points off the drop. I get it. I just don't think we'll be relegated. Okay. I don't think we'll be relegated. And I do think we'll win something. So I think this season will end. It will be an anomaly and a complete freak of a season. But to Pat's point, probably 45 minutes ago, about players being forged in the crucible, has there been a crucible that burned with greater intensity than the one at Tottenham Hotspur this season? So Archie Gray, Lucas Bergvall, Mikey Moore, Dane Scarlett, even Dejan Kulusevski, these are young kids. Spence, they're going to come in next season and think, I got put through hell last season, and I've made it through. I know this league now, and I'm ready. I'm ready to really kind of carry that momentum into something. And Mikey Moore is a special talent. We're very, very lucky to have him at Tottenham.
It's interesting you bring up that point. I've got to go to some of these messages that we've had here. This from Adrian here says the kids just seem to understand what the manager wants. Pre-season was the same, if you remember, with some of these young kids. And Wilcox here says, even before the goal, Dane Scarlett only offered us some movement up front, which we hadn't seen all season. Jem here says the movement by Jai reminded me of how Bale would take on players. Absolutely class. And I think, it is an evening where I know for many that come away from that stadium, and for some out there, quite perversely, Pat, that will be for some probably one of their favourite games of the season, because they've seen three starlets light up the show and give a sign to the future that although what we're feeling at the moment maybe isn't the greatest domestically, there are reasons to feel positive about some of the younger players that have got coming through the academy. Is that fair, Pat?
Yeah, it's fair. I think it's important we don't get carried away. I don't want to be a killjoy, but it's
No,
important
of
we
course
don't
not.
get carried away. It's
that's
amazing. It's amazing what happened, and I think obviously, like I said, it's a beautiful moment for us, for the fans, for the players, for their families. It was a game, with big, huge jeopardy. There was a lot on the line. The quality of opposition favoured us, of course it did, but it's a game we had to win. It's a game that still had something on the line for those guys as well. They were trying to sneak in, to the playoff spot, so they still had something to play and fight for. But let's not get carried away. Our league form still stinks. We've been in a really rocky moment, but hopefully now we're kind of coming to the end of that horrible moment and there's light at the end of the tunnel. But we still need to, like Jason and I kind of disagreed before, we definitely need a win on Sunday. A, to stop the rot in the league, B, for a bit of momentum. And some people are saying if you have to pick, we should be fighting to win every game now. We shouldn't be cherry picking. It's time to start winning games and putting some back-to-back wins on the board. So and it's just for that, because obviously these are kids. It's a great moment. But I hope Angie's in the dressing room saying, well done. Now let's focus on the next game. Let's not get carried away and lost in the hoopla. And it's time to focus and, literally get step by step. Let's start climbing the league. Let's start getting some wins. If we can go to Anfield and beat Liverpool after beating Brentford, all of a sudden our season looks so different.
It's very true, that, isn't it? You know what? It's crazy when you say that. Coming over to you, Jace. Pat makes a really good point there. This is the crazy thing, that how much a difference a week or two could make in football if certain results go our way. It's crazy when you think about that, how different it could be.
Yeah, and just on those young kids, as much as Scarlett's come on and done well tonight, we've liked a couple of bits and pieces pre-season and things from Lancashire. Jamie Donnelly's tearing it up. And we can sit here and eulogise about them all, but our supporters will be going apeshit if we let Rory Delac go through our fingers. Liam Delac go through our fingers, won't they? They won't think we've got three young kids who may only be 12 months behind him in their development. It will be go and chuck 40, 50 million at Ipswich for Liam Delac. So in which case, if you do that, where do those three youngsters see a pathway? So there's still that balancing act you have to go through. That's for sure. But no, I mean, we said after Hoffenheim, we hoped that we'd have had three back-to-back wins with Hoffenheim, Leicester, Elfsborg to take on. But it's just any win at the moment just stops the noise, just lightens the load a little bit.
And to that point, Jace, Hoffenheim won today away from home and scored 4 goals away from home today. Remember when we were on the show and people were saying, "Oh, you only beat..." Remember a couple of weeks ago, right? You only beat Hoffenheim. Well, they went and walloped Anderlecht 4-3 today. At home. Yeah.
It just shows you with Europe. I don't think you can ever, and to come back to that point you've said, Jace, you've actually said this on an often basis with Europe, you can never ever take a result a given in Europe. Europe is Europe. You can't ever, take a given in Europe. That's fair, right, Jace? I'm sure you'll make that point as well.
Any away win. I mean, just look at our record away from home in recent years. Losing to Mura, losing the first leg to Pacos de Ferreira or whatever. I mean, we've had some, what did we draw? 3-3 with Lask. Was it 3-3 with Lesk or something like that? Jesus Christ. So any away win is a plus at the moment. And you just have to, it just builds a little bit for you. That's all.
I really hope, can I just say, out of this game, and I know, again, Sonny's not on the score sheet, but there's some lovely moments actually after the game of Sonny being very close to the academy players. I really hope for Sonny, can I just say, that we maybe see a turning point, because there was, as I mentioned throughout the show, a bit of a glimpse of the old Sonny in there in terms of that first half where he had his fullback on toast. In the end of that game, he had 10 out of 11 successful dribbles, 11 out of his 12 duels won, 3 chances created. He was the man of the match for FootMob, who do a lot of player ratings, and that was all within actually the first 45 minutes. So we have to hope for Sonny that we're seeing a small turning point in what we hope to be a pivotal moment for our season. So we will move on to Brentford, we will, and see where that goes. We're going to give you a very quick update of where Tottenham are. Sorry, Jason, during Jason's favourite subject of the transfer window, because just to bring you the very, very latest, we understand at the moment, and again, Jason will tell you and I'll tell you, this can very much change because that is the nature as we go into the final 48 hours of the transfer window. We understand that Tottenham, as things stand, remain, and this is where it can always change, the favourites to land Matthias Tell from Bayern Munich. As things stand right now, Tottenham and Bayern have an agreement in place. However, we understand the player still wants to take his time before deciding where to go. Now, Spurs, we understand, are pressing hard for him, but there are other clubs still interested in him. The ball is in Tell's court. We understand Manchester United remain active in the race for Matthias Tell and have held new talks with his agent today. And that is despite the fact that we understand Tottenham have a verbal agreement in place with the player. But like all these things, Tottenham will still need to have the approval of the player to complete any deal. Tell has repeatedly stated in the past that he wants to become a legend of Bayern Munich. And we understand Spurs' proposal on the table at this moment in time is a permanent move. No loan with obligation, no loan with an option. We understand Tottenham are trying to push to sign Matthias Tell on a permanent basis. I'm going to be honest with you. Do I know a huge amount about the player? Not massively. I think if you cast your mind back to when Harry Kane left the football club, I think Tottenham were trying at that point in time to potentially get Tell on a loan here, in which Spurs were obviously scrambling around like they always do for a forward. I just wonder where we are at this point in the window now. I know, Jace, you despise it. Very quickly, is this where we're at right now, that with players like this, and you've always said this, that you are to some degree waiting now on their word rather than having the control over the situation, which does mean that you're in this chicken and egg situation of kind of where to move, because we're hearing reports that Daniel Levy, Johan Langer are personally working on the deal, and the player has asked for more hours to talk to his family and his agent to decide whether he wants to leave on loan permanently and to which club. Would that worry you as a fan that you don't seem to have the full buy-in of a player at this stage? Or are we at a point now where simply, I mean, we don't have a choice. We just have to simply move with what we've got out there now?
Well, I think we're not a big deal in Europe anymore, are we, for players? You know, we are a Premier League club. We are a London-based club, so it gives you a certain thing. But, you know, for a player and maybe for his agent and the advisors around him, they'll say Chelsea are interested. You probably go there. You win a trophy this year because they'll win the Conference League for sure. And the Conference League will be seen in Europe as bigger than a Carabao Cup. So even if you say to him, oh, you'll come here and you might be in a final, but Chelsea will offer him a final. Manchester United, for whatever we think of them and for wherever they are in the league, they are just a massive global club. So you're up against possibly two. And who knows if Arsenal suddenly come along and say, look, we need a forward and offer him something. I think if I was his agent, when I always look at it, rather than what I'm doing as the buyer, what would I be telling him as a player's agent? I'd be saying, go to Tottenham, but if I was you, I'd go there with an option in the summer so that you have a chance to have a look for 6 months, whether you like the Premier League and that, and then you're not stuck there at the end of it if you suddenly think, do you know what, I can play with better players than this. Because if he's been at Bayern, you come with a kind of an elite mentality. So, but then, you know, Tottenham can offer him maybe a bit more game time than he'll get the others at the moment. But if you're thinking of your career for 5 years, you know, does game time for the next 4 months override that more than the next 5 years? So I hope we're in. I mean, the good thing is that he obviously hasn't said no if Tottenham are now speaking to Bayern. So that's one thing for us. But I think it is one that will run and run until the end of the window. And this is the problem that you've got. If you want real quality, but you're not at the front of the queue, you have to wait. Now, you and me, Rick, said in a thing, and this is why the transfer windows do me in.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to sign players on January the 4th or 5th. But would you have preferred to sign anybody on January the 4th or get that real bit of quality towards the end of the window? And I do feel for Tottenham that if you want quality that elite clubs want, you are going to have to wait to the end of the window, because they are not going to choose you over elite clubs on January the 4th. They're just not going to do it. You have to accept that's the... And neither will they do it on June the 1st. If you want quality like that in the summer, it's going to come late August. You're not going to get it early in the window. So that's the play up. Do you wait for quality, or do you just jump in for anyone? And then we'd be going ape shit if we'd signed a Brian Hill type player, if you like, from Osasuna on the 3rd of January, just to get someone through the door, and then miss out on quality players later in the window because we've already stocked up with Deadwood that will be Deadwood in 6 months' time. That's the balancing act. That's why I don't go ape shit like everyone does on the very first day of the window.
It's a real bit balancing act, because I think, like, you know, I know you might not take that view. I mean, but Tish, coming over to you, there'll be many fans that do feel, and I know we had a discussion earlier today, Jace, I mean, your WhatsApp, that there may have already been damage limitation done to the league form by maybe not bringing in certain players that would have maybe given, you know, sometimes, and that sounds mad saying it, sometimes just to give the group a lift, to give everybody a lift around the football club, just to bring in a couple of players to ease the actual workload on them. We're in this situation now where, look, he certainly looks like a talented player. I can't tell you that I think he's a well-beater. I don't know enough about Matthias Tell to be able to give you my verdict on him. All I can say to you is that from the outside looking in, again, you can only really base your views off the snippets of highlight reels that you've seen. He looks a fairly promising player, but I think Jason makes that point now where you're kind of in the hands of the player, aren't you? Because you're waiting on a game now of where the player wants to come to Tottenham, and rightly so, like Jason says there, he's going to weigh that up. And the problem is we haven't got a lot of time to weigh that up. We've got
I mean, listen, every point that Jason made was completely valid, and the thing is that what's compounded this whole situation, of course, is the lack of investment over the summer. You know, that's when things aren't quite so difficult, and the competition isn't quite so fervent because, you know, you've got more time. Prices tend to be a little bit more competitive. You know, come January, everybody knows, selling clubs know that they've got buying clubs over a barrel. And so, yeah, Jason makes all the key points, and we are paying doubly for not getting business done in the summer. I've been on this show. I'm not going to do it again. I've been on this show before and listed 5 players, quality players that would have improved us straight off the bat that Ange Postecoglou wanted. Very publicly mentioned their names several times, and we all know who they were, and he didn't get any of them. And so we're really paying the price for that now. I mean, I definitely think that bringing in, sure, Kinski, great, but, you know, bringing in more than one outfield player would have just shown the fit players right now, at least, that our board aren't being like those politicians in those movies and just abandon, you know, the squad behind enemy lines and go, good luck, lads. I hope you don't get shot to pieces, you know. And so, because we have been shot to pieces right now. We've been absolutely decimated through injuries. And then again, today we've potentially picked up another, well, 1, but potentially 2. And so, yes, bringing in quality is important, but right now I just think we need bodies. There must have been some older players who perhaps you could have got at a reduced price because they're coming to the end of their career, you know, like a Lewis Dunk type player, not him specifically, but somebody like that who could just kind of come in and shore things up that you could potentially get at a better price, just to alleviate both physically and mentally. And once again, we've not done it, man.
I think the hard thing is, though, I mean, with the defenders now, I mean, they've obviously now got Mikey back. They've got Romero coming back. And, I mean, I've made this point so many
Bring in an older guy, dude. Bring in an older guy to play.
Listen, I said this point as well. You know, you can't get away from the fact, Pat, to bring you in on this, that Romero and Van der Ven, they dropped down the 8th of December. So the club were fully aware they had 3.5 weeks if they wanted to prepare to have a plan. They could have had one from there onwards. You know, again, they lost Ben Davies 3 days later. So I just want to be very, very clear, as I've said, there's absolutely no excuse that we've sat on our hands between now and, of course, up until the 31st. But I know Jason made that point last week that they have got this issue around registration, and I will make that point again. And I know Jason said it as well, just to be clear. That is for the club to work out. Whilst we can highlight that being a problem around the registration of players, that is for the club to work out. I mean, Pat, as we understand it at the moment, direct news coming to us is that Tottenham have presented their project to Matthias Tell and his agent, with game time as being the key factor as to what they are trying to give the player as the real point behind why he should come to Tottenham. They've had this direct meeting with Bayern. They've guaranteed they're going to pay the 60 million euro fee in case Tell decides to accept. Does it worry you, Pat, that we're in a waiting game now and the player is going to weigh up his options? And do you like the fact of how public it is, Pat? Because it does feel this is going to play out. I think, like to Jason's point, we may not have a verdict by tomorrow. This could very much drag into the final days of the window. And that does mean that you do run the risk of maybe not having an alternative in mind. And Tottenham, whatever people say out there, they do need another forward. They need another forward now. With Dominic Solanke going down, they need more options.
Yeah, no, it doesn't worry me that this is happening with him because, like Jay said, when you get to a level of player that is of that ilk and that clubs are interested in, it will become public and you will be doing this. But of course, you want the player to buy in. I'm not disappointed or annoyed that he's weighing up his options. That's right. I mean, anyone in any walk of life, if you're moving job, if you're thinking about putting your kids in school, whatever you're doing, if you're buying a new car, you're going to sit down and think about it. And he's within his rights to assess his options and think. And if he does come to Spurs, you want it to be because he's sat down, thought about, and he's 100% bought in. So there's no, I was forced to come on the last minute and none of that. He comes in, he buckles down, and he obviously helps to improve the team. The problem for me, like you said, Vicky, is that we've waited. We sat on our arse for the whole of January. We knew we needed players. The whole registration thing is crazy because there's meant to be people behind the scenes that are sorting all of this out. What are they doing?
Yep.
What are all these guys doing that we employ? Because they all seem to make mistakes time after time after time. And it's negligent that we've got to this stage of the window and we've not got no one in other than a goalkeeper. I hope and pray we do something. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. But it is crazy that we've got here, especially with how bad our league form has been, how low we are in the league, how many injuries we have, and they haven't brought anyone in. I just think that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because even if TJ made the point, bring in an older lone head or bring someone in, because even then when the players do come back, there's competition for spaces and places, and it picks up everyone, doesn't it? If you know you've got to fight for your spot and you're not walking straight back into that starting 11, ultimately the level of the team is lifted, and that's better for everyone. So
look at what Thiago brought to Chelsea.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not even saying like that level.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Yeah,
come on, man. Or like what Casemiro in his first season brought to United.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be the top quality. It's
or even when Bale, look at when Bale came back. Look how much of a lift that brought us when Bale came back.
Someone who's come in with medals all around their neck.
That's it, and that quality. Like, why can't we do that again? What's going on?
That's what I'm saying, bro. One season, come in and do it, and then relax, man. Go play golf.
I totally understand that, and I don't get me wrong. I'm not defending the club and what they're doing, but I think the other thing is that you can sign a body in the first few, because we're desperate for help. We need that help, but then come the summer, we'll all be moaning, why have we got this Deadwood in the squad? He's never going to be a Tottenham player, and you're stuck with somebody then on 100 grand a week or whatever, that you then, like we've got with Hill and Reggie on, that you're then stuck with and can't get rid of. So I do understand any club, not just Tottenham. I understand Arsenal not wanting to rush out and buy any striker just because the whole world's demanding they do it, and then spending all, and then thinking, shit, all that 40 million we spent in bloke on the winter, we now need something else in the summer, but we spent the money on just getting a body in for a few weeks. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Tottenham shouldn't have done business.
No, I get it. I get it.
Not at all. But I do agree with clubs, like Graham Potter said in his presser today, like Arteta says in his presser, you want players, when you buy a player or bring him in on a 3-year contract, you want that to be for a 3, 4, 5-year contract to play for that long, not just to think, he'll get us through the next few weeks, and then Mickey's back, and this one's back, and that one's back, and then we're stuck with Deadwood for the next 3 years that we, like Lo Celso was, and like Ndombele was, we can't get rid of. Like
I think somebody who's like 32, 33, You know, like one of those footballers, one of those defenders who's kind of done it all, but really looked after themselves as well.
I think the tricky thing is now, TJ. I think the problem with
almost
that
like
is
a
now.
Johnny Evans, like when Johnny Evans went back to United, look how he got him out of a hole.
Yeah.
Like kind of play.
I think the problem is with the club, and I might be wrong here. I think because of their situation now, where they've got Davis back, Romero back, Van der Ven back, and again, I'll make this point. Jason, this is not me defending the club because the last thing I've done during this transfer window.
Sure.
I honestly think the football club, in my opinion, want to spend as least amount of money as possible, and arguably now look at the fact in these final days and think the striker has got to be the priority. You've got Romero back in training next week. Van der Ven's already playing. Ben Davis is back there. The reality is,
I get that, bro, but it's the one or the otherness of that annoys me as well.
And that is the nature when you've got the 8th richest club in the world, and here we are, quite simply having to weigh up one or the other. Where honestly, it should be both. You know, it should be more than two. But this is what we're having. This is what this club have done to us, and the limitations that they put on them. That's why, again, I'll say to Ange that I will make this point again. This is why I've never ever put this whole thing on Ange Postecoglou when it comes to results, when it comes to performances, because like a lot of the previous Tottenham managers, that man is working under such hard limitations that I think the Tottenham job now is becoming very hard for anybody to succeed in when you look at what they're having to try and work around. You know, this is a man that whatever you think about, Jace, what you might have wanted in the window, what I might have wanted, what TJ would have wanted, what Patrck would have wanted, that man called for help before the window had opened and said, I need help for Dominic Solanke. He's then consistently said throughout the window, I need help. He then said 4 or 5 days ago, before the Leicester game, we are playing with fire. And we are going into the Brentford game, because I think it'd be very hard to get someone registered, probably with the same squad again. So we clearly, whatever we think, when the PR machine is saying we're backing Ange Postecoglou, we might be backing him in confidence behind the scene, but we're not backing him physically in terms of the market and giving the manager what he needs to be able to give Tottenham the best possible chance of success. So I think where we are right now, it's probably at the moment a non-redundant debate moving forward where we are, because nothing's going to really change. But I'll ask you guys very quickly, Jace.
But all I mean, Rick, is if you sign 4 players and you can only register one of them,
what are
you going to do with the other 3?
No,
what are you going to do with the other 3? We've spent
10
million on you. We spent 20 million on you. We've loaned you, but I tell you what, none of you can bloody play.
No, I totally agree with that point. But I totally agree with that. But I think it goes back to the point that Pat just said. This is not our responsibility to have to facilitate that. That is down on the football club to manage that registration better. And you actually said here 2 weeks ago they've made mistakes more than once on the registration.
Yeah, of course they have. But you make the point. Maybe they're not signing 4 players because it's up to the club to fix the problem. But you can only fix the problem by picking one of them and leaving somebody else out. You can't change UEFA's rules or the Premier League rules.
No, you can't.
Tottenham Hotspur can register 37 players and stuff the rest of the other clubs who can only register 25. You can't change the rules.
No, you can't change the rules. But the reality is, Jace, they put us in this situation. It's up to them to find a way around it. But to make your point there, I think anyone would, even if we wanted to sign 4, 5, 6 players, the registration rules show we can't because we can't find a way to do it. But going back to the point, when it comes to Tottenham bringing players in, I think we shouldn't have been in a situation where, given the form domestic that we've been in, it shouldn't have waited this long. But I take your point that the risk you sacrifice with that is you maybe don't get the quality that you may get between now that you might have got at the start of the window. That's what I will understand you're saying on that point.
And just to quickly highlight it, where everyone's saying, well, Manchester City have managed to do it. They've signed a couple of kids, 19 and 20-year-olds, and none of our fan base want us to do that. We need proven players now. So Manchester City signed Marmoush, but Kyle Walker went out. And Rodri was injured for the whole season. So Rodri's slot is completely empty. They don't have to register Rodri for the rest of the season. So like I'm saying, by all means, go and sign a centre-half today, but then leave Dragusin out for the rest of the season. And if he comes back fit in 2 weeks, oh, well, sorry, mate, we've signed somebody else now. You can't play.
No, I understand the point you're making there, but when it comes to that registration, I get that point. Listen, whatever we want, if we wanted 4, 5 or 6 players, we couldn't make it happen because you make the registration point there. However, again, Timo Werner, for what he's contributed this season, you may think this is harsh. take him out of the registration. And that sounds harsh. This is the thing. We don't know if Tottenham have got that.
Foster, we can get rid of those two right now. Like that's easy. Do you know what I mean?
It sounds brutal what we're saying, but the reality is, to go to Pat's point there are ways you can try and get around it. The thing I would just say is that, look, I'm not a lawyer, and I can't say they've got right to be able to do that.
But you've already got Spence and Kinski who aren't in.
Yeah. So look, I mean,
when
again,
Fraser Forster goes out, you put Kinski in. When
Regulon probably or something.
When Hotspur gets left out the squad, because Hotspur's obviously not going to be back to the end of the season, that brings Jed Spence in. You can only make one more change. There's two changes. You can only allow 3.
But this goes back to the point, doesn't it? You know, when it comes to the registration of players and the scouting of players and the way the club and the management, this is where extra due diligence needs to be taken on this point. Look, just again, we're going to finally bring you that final update that we understand that as of at the moment, as this show will go out and listen as an audio, we understand Daniel Levy and Johan Langer are continuing to work on that deal to bring Matthias Tell to the football club. The player has asked for a few more hours to talk to his family and his agent to decide whether he leaves the club on loan permanently and to which club. The player has made it clear from his perspective that he would love to have become a Bayern Munich legend one day at the football club. But again, Tottenham's proposal to Matthias Tell is that the key factor is this guy will get game time. Tottenham have agreed a 60 million fee with Bayern in the event Tell decides to accept. Very quickly, will he accept? If I ask you on a yes or a no, Pat, will Tell be a Tottenham player?
I'm gonna be positive because we need some PMA. We need some positive mental energy. So I'm gonna say yes, just because we need that positivity. So yeah, let's go. Yes.
Teach, tell me.
Of course.
Tell me. Will Tell be a Tottenham player?
I think Harry's done a job for us. You know, I think he's done a job, and also the reality is that he walks right into this Tottenham team. And so he's going to walk in and go, I could be the best player at this club. That means something to a young talent like that who wants to be a legend. Let me go and be the best player at this club and save them. That appeals to a young man.
Jace, what do I think you're going to bring us back down to earth here? Or maybe you won't. What do you think? You know, I know you're always pessimistic when it comes to, you know, you've always said actually at where we are now, and you don't mean this in a bad way, when you're trying to attract a higher caliber of player, it isn't as easy to convince them to come to Tottenham these days because, listen, we all love the football club, but it's not the most convincing project. That's fair, isn't it, where we're at?
Absolutely. My one worry will be is if United get rid of Rashford or Garnacho on the last day. If they suddenly find a move for those two, then they can offer him the starting place. They can offer him the same Europa League competition, and then Man United, who are bigger than Tottenham. That's the fact of it. So that would be my one worry. Hopefully, Rashford doesn't go anywhere and Garnacho doesn't go anywhere. And then I think we've got a big chance.
What's your gut tell you, Lev? I would say to you, if you're putting money on it, if you were saying he'd be a Tottenham player or not, what's your feeling tell you at the moment?
I'd say 65%.
Yes. 65% yes at the moment.
65% yes.
Yep. Look, Andrew was asked about the player in his presser and said, look, I can't tell you anything because I've been focused on the team and the game itself. Others are working in the background. As I said all along, I'm allowing them to get on with it. And when and if there's any news, you'll be sure to be obviously informed on that situation. So that is where we are on Matthias Tell at the moment. We know Spurs are continuing to work on potentially other players. We understand when it comes to the likes of Tyler Dibbling, Spurs are still keen on his signature as we do go into the final days of this transfer window. Again, we understand a move for Okafor, who was led to believe to be a alternative to, at the moment, Tell is off the table. So we're not expecting Okafor to be a Tottenham Hotspur player between now and the end of this January transfer window. So it does feel at the moment all eyes are on Matthias Tell as to whether he will become a Tottenham player. And like I say, everyone knows what the transfer window is like. This is the nature of where it will go down to the wire. And I think, as Jason has said there, when you're trying to sign quality, unfortunately, you have to wait to sign quality. It doesn't always come to you. So we are in that debate now where, how long do you give it? Let's see if Tottenham have got any other options. We'll see. Let's actually close on this point. Teach, how confident are you that the club will do something in these next couple of days to give Ange Postecoglou the help he has called for since really the start of December? I think if you go back
listen, I stand by my opinion that I think that Tell will come, because, and I completely agree with Jason that if United put in a bid, he'd go to United. He would, especially if he thinks he walks into that side rather than walking to our side. And also they are in crisis as well. I think it's very appealing for a young man to see a damsel in distress and want to swoop in and save said damsel. And we are a damsel right now, and so are Manchester United. So if Garnacho and Rashford stay at United, I think that we are that damsel at the side of the road looking at a flat tire, and he swoops in and says, "Excuse me, madam, can I help you?"
Yeah.
And I would very happily be that madam right now if he came in and did us a favour.
We all would. I think we all would.
But in a strange way, if he ends up at United and they can't find a buyer for Garnacho or Rashford, maybe we end up with one of those two.
Absolutely. Either way, we're the damsel at the side of the road with a flat tyre.
I'm waiting for something. Yeah, it's interesting on that point there. I mean, Pat, are we in that situation now where, I hate to use this term because I know Jason despises panic buying, despises last-minute trolley dashing. The squad, the manager, they need something, don't they? They need something going into Liverpool. Huge game for the club next Thursday. We'll make that point again. Let's not get away from how big Brentford is on Sunday, as you've highlighted during the show, Pat. The team, the squad, they deserve something for dealing with this very tricky period right now where we have, as what you have to bring into the focus here, secured the next pathway through to Europe, which of course is the double leg coming up, which we'll find out at team very, very soon in the coming days.
100%. I mean, if we had an active club and board that really wanted to back the manager and back the team, and they say they got confidence in Ange Postecoglou, they would have bought some signings in already. So you just hope now. I know I understand the January transfer window is a tricky one, and a lot of business. It always happens at the back end of the window. Everyone starts skeltering and pieces start moving, and that's like, it's like a domino effect. So sometimes it is just the nature of the beast, but now is the time to act, and definitely we can do some business. We've got so much wiggle room with FFP in terms of the amount of money we make and we haven't spent. There's no excuses. So bring one or two in. If you really back Ange Postecoglou, you believe he's the man, he's weathered the storm. Obviously, things, hopefully, touch wood, can't get any worse. Bring some players in to lift us. Yeah, no, I mean, they can't, God forbid, they can't get worse than this, can they? I think we've been through our worst ever crisis, hopefully. And bring some players in to lift the team, lift the fans, and then let's kick on. So there's no excuse. We have to bring at least one quality player in. Ideally, two. Like, there should be no excuses.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll see. Before we close with Jason, in terms of other potential snippets of what's happening right now, we understand Sergio Reguilon is of interest to a couple of different clubs out there in Spain and AK Athens. That is from friend of the show, Paul O'Keefe. Obviously, like I say, one to keep an eye on. Spurs are currently using Reguilon at the moment in terms of featuring in certain games. We understand he's in no rush to make a decision and could finish his season at Tottenham and his contract and then look to move in the summer. Tyrese Hall is led to be a player that Spurs have discussed lightly with Southampton as a potential make-weight in their deal for Tyler Dibbling. So one to keep an eye on there as we enter the final days of the window. And we understand Spurs are closing in on signing 18-year-old talent Daniel Batty from Man City for a fee of $500,000 and future add-ons with sell-on percentage, medical ongoing. I left that one to last there just because I didn't want to kill people off in the earlier part. Jace, I know you despise the window. We're going to see you once it closes. We're going to see Pat on deadline day. We're going to see Tej on Sunday for Brentford. Jace, were you glad when it's over? Because I think you always make this point that, look, I think you've also... Listen, I've known you for a long, long time, bless your heart. I know you also feel we need support in this window, but I know you also feel as well the window can send people a little bit doolally when it's open, that it sometimes also distracts away from football results. Is that fair? Maybe me being one of them, but I think I've been quite calm during this window. Yeah,
my problem with the window has always been the coverage of it and the fact people do lose their minds. They don't think of knock-on effects or anything. It's just, but it reminds me, of the New Year's Day sale when people go rushing in. I buy a TV, I buy this, and they get home and think, shit, I ain't got a washing machine at home, but I've now bought 4 TVs down the sale, and that's how it is. And the whole Jim White thing that it used to be, the whole Darmesh thing, live from Battersea in front of us. Why? What are you talking about? Just tell me when the player arrives. That's it. I don't want to know who we've missed out on, who might be coming. Just tell me, hold the shirt up, right, we've signed this player. It's people, the whole the whole thing, oh, they're not backing Ange, and then you sign a player. Ange wanted him, says this bloke, and this. No, he didn't want him. He wanted this one instead. It's just like, Jesus Christ, just watch the games and turn the transfer talk off. That's how I just am. I like the old-fashioned way when Klinsmann turned up on Alan Sugar's yacht and nobody knew a word about it. That's my type of transfer window.
I'll tell you what, on that point, I know many that don't know why Jason doesn't do the transfer shows. Now you know why Jason doesn't do the transfer shows. Can I just say for our avid listeners out there that may want Jason back alongside me, but I will tell you 8 years ago, Jason started those transfer shows with me, and I think I lost him after episode 3 because you'll know why.
Sissoko signing that ended me, I think. It was like, I've done enough of it now.
Oh, the clips of Musa Sissoko going back around the motorway, leaving the Everton training ground to side for Tottenham. Well, we could do another show out of this, but we won't. Look, I've got to say, it's been a fabulous hour and 40 with you amazing people out there. Like I say, nearly about 10,000 of you watching the show live. Honestly, thanks so much for all your support as we do crash into midnight here and afterwards on Last Word on Spurs. Look, the most important thing to take away, Spurs are through to that next phase of the Europa League. They've got a two-legged tie coming their way. And Postecoglou has successfully navigated Tottenham through this competition. We know we've got bigger and huger tests to come in this next week or so. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Patrck, Tyrant, Pat. Thank you so much. We'll see you on deadline day where hopefully, Jason, close your ears. We're discussing a couple coming in and the club having to work some registration magic, Pat. Is that fair? We'll leave him with that.
Oh, man, please. Yeah, don't let it be a boring Monday, man. Please excite us, Tottenham. Bring some players in.
And we hope it won't be a boring Sunday as well, because TJ with us for Brentford, where I think, as Pat says, that is a big, big game, because as we know, this next week or so for Tottenham is a big, big week where I think, Pat, you said it, if we can try in this next week, get a couple of results, suddenly maybe this season does look a lot different, where we're staring down a final and we're in a Europa League double-legged tie. And I know Jason will say to me now, but you don't want the cups. I don't know what I want anymore with this football club. It's driving me insane.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got a big week coming up.
One good thing is Villa are suddenly losing players, aren't they? Villa are picking up injuries. Lost John Duran. They might, and they struggled last night to beat Celtic. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
No, a big week coming ahead. I'm looking forward to Sunday. Like I said, I'll actually be in Florida for that show, but I'm looking forward to it. And also, before I go, obviously, thanks to you, Rick. Thanks to the panel. Thanks to all the viewers and listeners. But let's not forget what a magical, historic moment we all just witnessed. Of course, we've been talking about transfers for probably the last 30 minutes. The first hour of this show, we were absolutely in jubilant spirits and heaping well-earned, deserved praise upon the shoulders of 3 young men who've come through the academy and had a movie moment in their lives, coming off the bench and scoring their first goals at Tottenham in front of the South Stand, 2 adoring fans, rapturous applause, celebrating with their families, celebrating with their players. It's a wonderful night at last to be a Tottenham Hotspur fan again. So let's bathe in that warm spirit for now. Think about Sunday at the time, but tonight go to bed in jubilant spirit and be happy to be a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
Oh,
Thank
man,
you for having
quickly,
me, my love to all.
Tej, where can everybody find the quiz? I've actually got a lot of messages here saying about the quiz.
Trivia, yeah.
Tell everyone to find the trivia very quickly.
Lots of fun trivia games, either on YouTube, it's just Trivia Junction TJ, or on Instagram, Trivia Junction TJ. So a very easy thing to find. Trivia Junction TJ, lots of fun trivia games on there. I did one in the car yesterday. I was stuck in traffic and I just banged out a quick 60-second trivia challenge. So if you're into trivia, give them a go. Something to make you smile whether we're winning or losing.
I wonder when I was going to go and cheat and I banged one out there in 60 seconds. He was talking about the quiz, to be very clear. Nothing else for
I know it's after the watershed, but I'm not going to be that guy. Don't worry.
Yeah, definitely not on this show. Turn over, press the red button. You might find that somewhere else, not on this show.
Exactly.
Tej, love you very much. We're going to see you very, very soon.
Mate.
And look, how did we get Jason talking half an hour on transfers? I don't know what's happened there. We've already used Jason's allocation of transfers up. Jason, whatever it is, I'm sure you'll agree. We just need to be in a better place than when we started the window. That's the most important thing, right? End it in the most better place we can be. And have a massive week for the football club. And I'm sure you'll say, as you've said all along here, and implore, we could still have a very successful season despite a lot of Spurs fans feeling, maybe a little bit like me, that it's been a very turbulent campaign so far. It could be still very successful for the football club and for us as fans, right? It could be.
Of course it can. Anything can happen this week. There'll be battles for sure. We never do things easy, but you've got to look at it. Look at the possibilities that are still in front of us. And if you really want to moan, if those possibilities become impossibilities, then do the moaning then.
Yeah, spot on. Jace, lovely way to end it. Jace, we're going to see you very, very soon. Guys, there you go. We have been the last one on Spurs. You've had it all. You've had 3 academy lads taking us by storm. You've had a transfer update where, tell me more, is where we'll leave you. From the wonderful Patrck Tyrant, from the superb TJ Ramini, from the brilliant Jason McGovern. We have been the last word on Spurs. The academy lads still the show, but we are waiting for more of Tell. From us all here, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.